Good evening and welcome to Latrobe City Council's council meeting, which is being held tonight at the Gippsland Performing Arts Centre. Tonight's unscheduled council meeting has been called to discuss item 6.1, Traralgon City Band Tour of Remembrance. Tonight's meeting will be held with councillors and guests joining us in person and virtually. I'm pleased to announce in person tonight Councillor and Deputy Mayor Sharon Gibson, Councillor Potter, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Lund, Councillor Howe, Councillor Barnes, Councillor Pugsley and Councillor Campbell. We also welcome our CEO, Mr Steve Piasanti, and our executive team. Housekeeping. We move on to housekeeping rules. Moving to our housekeeping matters, we conduct our meetings under the governance rules currently in place. We welcome all members of the public attending both via the live stream and in person. Recording and broadcasting of meetings is not allowed without first obtaining consent of council or the chair. I thank you for respecting the protocols of the meeting, which we ensure we can extend the appropriate courtesy and respect throughout our meeting tonight. If councillors could ensure that they raise their hand if they wish to speak so I can see it. Speak directly into the microphone to ensure that they can be heard within the room and via the live stream. And when voting, raise their hands and leave their hands raised until I've called their name. Yep. We now move to the recognition of traditional owners of the land. I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting here today on the traditional land of the Baracalung people of the Gunai-Kurnai Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present. If there are any other elders present, I'd also like to acknowledge them. As all councillors are present, there are no apologies for tonight, so we move on to declarations of interest. Councillors, do any councillors have a declaration of interest? No, I will declare a material interest on item 6.1 as this relates to the Mayor's position and payment for the trip. And when we come to item 6.1, I'll be handing over to the Deputy Mayor. Councillors, we move on to the acknowledgements section. Any councillors wish to make any acknowledgements tonight? Nope. Okay. There are no registered public speakers tonight, councillors, so we shall now move into item 6. And as I have declared a conflict, I'll ask the Deputy Mayor to come and take over the chair, and I'll leave the room. Thanks, Mr Piasanti.
See you back shortly. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, councillors, next on the agenda is item 6.1, notices of motion. There is one item in this section. The item is 6.1, Traralgon City's Band Tour of Remembrance. Are you moving this motion, Councillor Pugsley?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Bear with me, please. Okay, so you're moving what is the notice of motion on there? Just a second.
Yes, Madam Mayor, yes.
Deputy.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Madam Chair.
That'll do. Moving. You had a question? Did you have a question, Councillor Lund?
Not a question. I'd like to move an amendment to that.
You
notice.
can't move one until it's been moved and seconded.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No worries. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Barnes. Second. It helps if the pen works. Second. You can pop up now if you want.
Oh, sorry. Second. Sorry. Oh, not on my game. Apologies. I want to move an amendment, please.
Right. Okay. Since the other one has been moved and seconded, you can move an amendment. So I will just... Oh, God, you didn't give me one for an amendment. But that's okay. So Councillor Lund is moving an amendment. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
Happy to second it. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Second for the amendment. Do I have any opposition? I will in a second. I'm getting there. Sorry. Right. Now, what I'll do is I'll explain about an amendment. Right, we've got the original motion is there, but Councillor Lund is moving an amendment. Now, once the original has been moved and seconded, after that you can, anytime you can move an amendment, and that's what's happened here. So Councillor Lund has moved the amendment, although we haven't seen the amendment, and gee, you could do it a bit larger. Sorry. Thank you. Which is the alternate, is it? Yeah. Is it what was going to be the alternate?
Sorry, the amendment is to include one word on point 3B. Mayor will attend
Yes.
without the mayoral change. So the amendment is one word only.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. For the gallery, what it is the original, but it has taken out the mayoral chains, so it's to go without the chains. Okay. So we have essentially, when you have an amendment, you suspend the original, and I'm saying it to this lot because they moved and seconded the original. So what happens is we are now dealing with the amended motion, and we will go through the process with that, and depending on the outcome as to what you do. Right, so we have a mover and a seconder for the amended motion, and we have opposition. Councillor Lund, do you wish to speak?
I certainly do. Thank you very much. So I am speaking to the amended motion, which seeks to keep the motion as is, but remove the need, the focus on the mayor taking the mayoral chains. First of all, I want to acknowledge the distress this has caused. This situation has caused the Traralgon City Band, their families and their friends. This hard-working, dedicated group has done everything it could to raise funds to support their own trip, and they should be focusing on the pride of representing their community overseas, but instead they're caught in a fallout of this council's failures. To the band, their supporters and their families, I want to offer my sincerest apologies. I have the utmost respect for all of our local community organisations, and I can only imagine how deeply this situation has affected the spirit and cohesion of the band and their extended family and friends. This has caused emotional and reputational damage, not just to the band, but to the entire community, and this is simply unacceptable. This amended motion is being put forward to clear a failure in governance, something that should never have happened in the first place. The approval of $9,500 of the Mayor's travel expenses for the Traralgon City Band Tour of Remembrance, approved by Councillors Barnes, Pugsley, Campbell and Gibson, in my opinion, represents a misuse of ratepayers' funds. Residents are furious about this decision, and rightfully so. Social media and news outlets have been flooded with criticism, and it's gone on for days. I've got no doubt many who are tuned in tonight as well. This decision was wrong, and that's why we're here tonight. The pressure on the Mayor and those councillors who voted for this is intense. The damage to the council's reputation cannot be overstated. The reality is the 4 councillors involved failed their community, and there are consequences for that. Now, I do acknowledge that Mayor Harriman has now offered to personally cover the $9,500 cost for his trip, which is a step in the right direction. However, our Mayor is an experienced councillor. This should have been the position from the very beginning, as the Mayor has oversight over the agenda. There was opportunity to advise that he would self-fund the trip before this item was tabled as urgent business. This would have negated the need for council to consider this at all. While the Chamber is required to approve overseas travel, I question the urgency and the timing of this decision. Why wasn't the request to travel overseas included? Could I please have an
30
extension?
seconds.
Oh, okay. Why wasn't the request to travel overseas included in the normal meeting cycle with the proper supporting documentation for review? Given all that, I have a few comments on leadership. Reflecting on everything that's happened, I have very little confidence in the Mayor and the leadership team to follow the governance rules we're all supposed to uphold. There are serious questions here about integrity, not just in the decision-making process, but in the example this sets for the rest of the council. May I please have an extension?
How much more have you got?
1 page, so about a minute.
Oh, no, not a whole
30
page. No. If you've
It's
got a
in big
paragraph...
Okay, right. This amendment seeks to remove the reference to the mayoral chains being taken on this trip. It's no longer just a symbolic issue, it's a financial one. The chains are valued at $50,000 and would need to be with the mayor at all times. Given that the tour involves visits to multiple countries, this adds an unnecessary risk to the ratepayer. If something that happens to them, whether they're lost or damaged, we'd be facing an insurance claim that would ultimately have to be paid by ratepayers. This risk is unnecessary and costly, and the potential for an excess claim is up to $10,000. If that happened, it could cause further reputational damage to the mayor and to the organisation.
Have you nearly
This situation
finished?
has already drawn a lot of attention. We should
Have you nearly finished, please?
Yes. We
Thank
should
you.
not be approving anything that poses any kind of risk to the situation going forward. Thank
No
you.
worries. Thank you. Councillor Howe, do you wish to speak or reserve?
I'll reserve if that's okay. Thanks,
No
Madam Chair.
worries. Councillor Pugsley, you oppose. Do you wish to speak?
May I ask a question?
You may. You can ask a question at any time.
So, being new to council, am I able to ask on previous trips where, and is it a regular occurrence for the mayoral chains to accompany the mayor on their overseas trips, please?
It has happened before. Mr. CEO, have you got more information?
For the trips, most recent trips, the two that occurred in, I think, 23 and an earlier one in 2016 to Japan, or sorry, 2017, thereabouts, the mayoral chains weren't taken to those. And they were more, I suppose, in relation to economic development activities supporting the hydrogen project, so there probably wasn't a need from a ceremonial perspective. But the preceding trip, I think it was back in 2015, of a similar nature to this trip, that the chains were taken.
Yes.
What is the benefit on this trip of taking the mayoral chains, please?
It was in some documentation, but
Yeah, so from what I understand and what the information we've been provided, more from a ceremonial perspective, so particularly in France, as I understand it, even in some of the other countries, that the mayors in those particular countries and locations do typically wear a robe, and some have a sash and some may have chains, and so from a ceremonial perspective it has some benefit in that respect, in terms of having the chains, in terms of reciprocating their views of the standard of what a mayor should, how a mayor should be dressed in terms of their public office. For those sorts of functions and events that they go to that are ceremonial, so would be reciprocating their views as to how the mayor should be presented, would be what I understand.
did that answer your questions, Councillor Pugsley?
I just want to make sure that I've got it right. So by taking the mayoral chains, it actually elevates the tour. Is that correct?
I suppose my view would be it would reciprocate the same view that they have as to the standard of the mayor, as in terms of wearing robes and having chains or sashes and the like, in terms of being equivalent, having that ceremonial status, if you like, or view of how the mayor should be presented in a public setting. So it's probably meeting their same expectations, not necessarily elevating. In my mind, it's more meeting them at the same level.
Thank you.
No worries. Now, do you wish to speak to as opposition or not?
Not at this time, thank you, Madam Chair.
No worries. Councillor Potter, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I've got a question as well,
Yes.
please, Madam Chair. How heavy are they? How heavy are the chains?
I don't know. I've never picked them up.
I just read somewhere today that they need to be with him all the time, taken on as cabin luggage, that they have to be locked in hotel, the
Yes,
main
but
safes.
the question is how heavy.
Yeah, so how heavy are they that you've got to carry them with you all the time?
Question I would have to take on notice.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I don't
Don't
actually have the
know.
answer to that one.
Thank you, Madam
I
Chair.
do know it's been taken before and they didn't complain about the weights, but I don't know. Okay. Do I have a question?
So what's the difference that these mayoral chains went in 2015 to today? What is the difference?
Do you wish to answer that?
Other than, through you, Madam Chair, most likely have to take that on notice. I think that the last time a similar decision was made by council in terms of taking the mineral chains, but in terms of the exact detail around all of that, I'll have to do some more research and provide that to you.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure if Councillor Howe was on council at that time. No. All right. If I have it right, it was an ask because of the prestige it does, and it's up to the council what they do. Okay. Do I have a speaker for the motion? Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the mayoral chains are far more than just a piece of jewellery. They're a living testament to the pride and the history and the leadership that has shaped the Latrobe Valley and now Latrobe City. They're valued, as my colleague said, at $50,000. So these chains hold immense significance, not only in their financial worth, but that they represent to our community. So the chains are a symbol of leadership for those who have served before us and for the betterment of Latrobe City. They're steeped in history, a visual representation of the respect, dedication and the hard work that is carried on across Latrobe City for generations. To think that such a significant and priceless symbol of our heritage could leave our city, let alone the country, and be potentially lost, stolen or damaged is not just concerning, but it's deeply unsettling. Removing them from Latrobe City isn't just about losing a valuable item, it's about severing a link to who we are and where we've come from. So I fully support this.
No worries. Thank you. Do I have a speaker against the motion? Do I have a speaker for the motion? Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Sitting here tonight in this unscheduled council meeting, I fully support this amendment to the motion at hand. But in doing so, I would like to voice my concerns at this council's ability to make informed and transparent decisions. I'm concerned at our chamber's ability to look at the impact of our decisions beyond just these tables in the chamber, to fully absorb what the impact may be.
What I
on
would
our community.
ask, if you can stop so that it doesn't keep going down, it really needs to, and I don't know
I'm
where
getting
you're
there,
going with it.
Doing a bit of a
Yes.
predecessor's oration vibe. Anyway, so the community have raised concerns, and I believe rightfully so, about the decision that was made at last week's meeting. And those concerns were raised in this chamber. They were raised in that time, and I'm concerned that those issues were not heard. I'm grateful that we're here, able to reverse this decision to put council funding money into what can only be described as a junket. But I'm very concerned that the original motion that this amendment is hoping to amend I'm concerned that the economic impact of even taking the mayoral chains overseas has not been looked into. We haven't seen reports on the potential economic impact of this trip, and yet we're still in a position where we could be potentially putting more and more money into a trip that doesn't show us what the benefit is to our region, to an area where we're in a cost of living crisis. We're in Latrobe, where we have some of the highest rates of poverty across the state. Morwell itself has the second highest rate of disadvantage.
Councillor Morgan, it has to. We're talking. This amended motion is about the chains.
Yes, it's the economic impact of the chains, which, as
it's
my
a long
colleague
bow.
has, it's coming to a point, I promise.
Right.
So in Morwell, we have the second highest rate of disadvantage per private dwelling in Victoria, with 52.8% of occupied private dwellings in the township in the most disadvantaged quartile of disadvantage in Australia. So we are in a position where I think it is not financially okay. It's not okay for us socially. There's no social licence for us to send the mayoral chains overseas and have the potential impact of a $50,000 piece of very important memorabilia of the Traralgon Council being, stolen or something like that.
Have you got much more to go?
I've got like one sentence.
Yep, no worries.
There we go. So I think this amendment really allows us to reduce the financial burden of this trip and ensure that we are listening to our community, to ensure that we are acknowledging that there is a huge economic impact in the negative should we not listen to the community. We need to be focused on supporting our community through a cost of living crisis. There we go.
Thank you.
Done.
Okay.
Jump.
We got there. All right. Do I have another speaker wish to speak? Right. Councillor Pugsley.
Through you, Madam Chair. I would like to note that at no time have I seen with the public, with our residents' feedback, that there was any issue with us taking the mayoral chains overseas. I would also like to note that it was in the Traralgon City Band's original presentation that I attended, that they were asking for the mayoral chains to go. My colleagues have noted that they are regretful towards what the Latrobe City Band, the Traralgon City Band, my apologies, has gone through with everything in the last week. I think it's very important that we show them the respect accorded to them by honouring this wish of taking the mayoral chains with them to elevate their tour. Thank you, Madam Chair, Deputy Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Harriman, sorry. Councillor Campbell, I saw your hand up before. Were you putting your hand up to speak? Okay.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, our Mayor said he made a mistake. He brought this meeting this week. All I'm hearing is that a junket, but he had listened to the public, he's listened to the people, and he called this meeting tonight. It's not as though, yes, he did. Don't look as though he didn't, because it was him that brought this motion forward. Yep.
I think I can answer your question.
Please. Please.
It was a notice of motion that actually called it. Is that answering?
I just
no?
want to clarify who did call the meeting.
Yes, that's what I was
thank you.
doing.
So can we have that on record, who called the meeting? Sorry.
It is in all our paperwork, yes.
Yes, thank you.
I just wanted to say he made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes in their life, and he's rectified that mistake. and this mistake has been rectified here tonight, and the Traralgon Band have requested, I was at those meetings too and those briefings, they requested the chains to go. It wasn't the Mayor.
Thank you. You wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Barnes.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. What I'd like to say is all us councillors, we need to have a good look at each other. You know, we need to learn to work as a team for a start. Mm-hmm. What I've found, I've only been on this for a little bit, there's not too much teamwork going on between all of us. And I think it's a sad thing.
Councillor Barnes, I'll do what I did to the others. You've got to speak to the motion that's in front of us.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is with the chains and that would go overseas, or if they go overseas, I think it's a great thing for Latrobe Valley too, because what it's doing, it's promoting our area. If you said to someone in Melbourne, go to Traralgon, they're going to say, what's there? You need to create different things what happen in different areas so you can get people to come into Latrobe Valley and get behind each other. Don't be so negative about everything we do.
Yeah, but you need...
That was it.
Thank you. Okay. Now, the only one who hasn't spoken, Councillor Howard, do you wish to speak?
Well, there's not much left to say.
No,
I don't
there's
think,
not.
Madam Chair. I've got all these notes, but everyone said it, so I'll just sort of briefly touch on. I think the mayoral chains going on the trip is more of a nice thing to do rather than a necessary thing to do. And I think when you look at the actual requirements the insurance company lays out about how they have to be travelled, along with the risk of anything happening to them, whether they get damaged or mistaken or misplaced or stolen. I think it's just a little bit too, the risk is just too much. It's an unnecessary risk that we don't need to take. I'll just highlight that we conduct a lot of ceremonies and we meet a lot of people in Latrobe City, and we don't wear them when we're in our hometown. So I think that we can probably get away with it when we're overseas and visiting people. So, and probably one of the important points that I did write down was it's the dollar value, of course, but it's part of Traralgon and Latrobe City's history. And if anything does happen to them, it is irreplaceable. And like I said, I just think that's a risk that is just too much that we don't need to take. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Lund, we've had opposition. Would you like to close?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I think in closing, I think most things have been said. I do strongly believe that it is an unnecessary risk and it's a costly one, and a reputational one if they are damaged. It will be one that will also follow us in the media. So I'm I'm actually deeply concerned about the organisation and where it stands at the moment. The business that will be conducted can be conducted without the mayoral chains, and I think it's simply an unacceptable risk that we should not burden the ratepayers with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lund. We've had speakers. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All right. Councillor Potter, Councillor Morgan, Councillor Lund, Councillor Howe. All those against? Councillor Barnes, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Campbell and myself. We have a tie vote again, and I will vote in the negative. So the motion is lost. So what happens now is the original comes back before council, and we will go through the process as that is the original. Do I have a mover for... Oh, well, we did. Question, please. Since we have had the mover and the seconder originally, can that mover and seconder actually... Yes, they can. Okay. Yes, they can. Right. What I was asking is because we've had the mover and seconded for originally, I was asking because that occurred, whether they can move and second this time round.
I can clarify, Madam Chair. So the original motion was moved and seconded, so the amendment was lost, so now it's going back to the original, so it's back to the original mover.
Oh, so it's back to the original mover and seconder. Okay, so we've got a mover as Councillor Pugsley and a seconder as Councillor Barnes. Thank you very much for that. Now, do I have any opposition? No. Okay. Have you got a question? Right.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, have council been approached by any companies to meet with the Mayor during this tour of remembrance?
Sorry. Sorry,
Yes, that's the
Mr.
CEO.
CEO.
Madam Chair, not a councillor. Upon the announcement and some of the commentary in the media, we have had, I know, at least one organisation who's made some preliminary contacts with us before this motion was even proposed in terms of any change, I might add. So they'd contacted us just to ask whether, when the Mayor was travelling, so that's one of the offshore wind companies, when the Mayor is travelling, if they had interest, if they could organise it when the Mayor was in a particular location, whether there may be the possibility to meet with the Mayor to talk about some of the opportunities that might exist in terms of offshore wind, particularly in Gippsland, so from their perspective. So that's one I do know of. There may be others that those organisations, such as those, might be interested in speaking to the Mayor about when, as part of the tour, which would be obviously in addition to what's happening regarding the Traralgon City Band Tour, and it would need to be able to be arranged such that if it was possible, if it wasn't possible, then it wouldn't happen. So we have had some contact. Yes, is the short answer.
Another question?
Yep. Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, will you keep us all informed if there is and what benefits it will be, if any?
I would suggest yes.
That might be, if the motion does go through as proposed, something to chat to the Mayor about in terms of, certainly keep you updated in terms of the proposal, but I suppose on return it'd be good to ask those questions about the benefits of those things, which is a little bit a question more directly to the Mayor, I think.
Oh, well, actually, if I've got it right, when you go overseas, you have to have a report come back as to what actually occurred. Am I right?
So our policies don't actually state that. Some I have looked at some other policies in relation to use of council resources, and particularly in relation to overseas trips, and they do have that requirement. It's normal practice, so I would expect the Mayor would do that anyway. But it's something that we can certainly chat to the Mayor about in terms of how we assist him if he is on the tour, that he might provide some reports back to us that we can then help collate when the Mayor returns in terms of a more formal report to Council. So if it was something that Council wanted to see definitely occur, I'm sure the Mayor would do it, but if that actually was added into the motion as an amendment, that might be something the Council wishes to consider in terms of receiving a report on the return.
From memory, any time a councillor has gone overseas, a report does come back. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor.
No worries. Okay, Councillor Pugsley, you moved the motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say that I've attended all of the briefings and presentations and made the best informed decision at the time. Given the information, I was happy to support the original motion, but having heard the community, as has the Mayor, I'm happy to move to accept his offer to fund $9,500 himself.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Barnes, you second the motion. Do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Deputy, yeah, I'd like to second that motion. I think it's a great thing for Latrobe Valley, to be honest, and for Dale to fund his own way. I think, why wouldn't you? You know, it's going to promote the whole area. It's getting us out there a little bit, and I think we should really have a good look at it.
No worries. Do I have a person wish to speak to the motion? Do I have Councillor Lund?
Sorry, I will speak to the motion, if that's okay.
Yep.
I'm now in a position that I do need to vote for this this motion, purely because we are here tonight to basically reverse the decision that was made by 4 councillors to pay for that trip, and I do acknowledge that the Mayor has now offered to pay for that himself. So I want to make those 2 acknowledges, but we are here to reverse it and to ensure that there is no cost to the ratepayers. I will be voting in support of this motion. With a few key things being said, I'd just like to revisit some of the things that I have already said about the damage to this council's reputation. It cannot be overstated.
I would suggest really that's not...
That is my
yes,
opinion.
But that's not... you can have an opinion, but that's not speaking to the motion.
I am speaking to the motion. The Mayor is an experienced councillor, and I strongly believe that the urgent business items should not have come forward in the first place. There are processes that can be followed and should have been followed, but we are here tonight to reverse that decision. So upon reflecting on everything that's happened, I would like to say that I hope that we all really consider the damage that has been done and how we go forward, ensuring that we're upholding the governance rules and the integrity of the role that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lund. Do I have another person, councillor, wish to speak? Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm actually speaking against the motion.
Oh, okay.
I was waiting for you to ask.
Well, I did ask for opposition.
Oh, yes, sorry, I didn't. Yes, sorry.
Whoops.
My mistake.
Okay.
Can I still speak against?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I can't support this motion as I have concerns about the Mayor going overseas. And why has it taken a nationwide public backlash for the Mayor to see that he'd made a mistake and to now do the right thing? Something he should have done when he was first offered and to pay his own way, which raises the questions around should the Mayor be taking leave from Council to actually accompany the band. While he's offering to cover his initial travel contributions, there'll still be expenses that he can claim back from Council for things not covered by the initial cost, potentially adding up to hundreds of dollars. And this raises further concerns about the responsible use of public funds. I want to acknowledge the community's shared frustration, disappointment and anger for the decision the Mayor made to travel overseas. Over the past several days, I've been approached by so many, all asking the same question: how did this happen? Our community is struggling. We have projects sitting idle, antisocial problems in one of our major towns and vital community programs that cannot move forward due to lack of funds.
Can you bring it back to the motion,
in the
please?
face of these pressing needs, we are met with glaring contradictions. The Mayor, the very person elected to serve and prioritise this community, has seemingly found resources for what one constituent so aptly described as Mr Euro Vacay's holiday. Let's not forget the Traralgon City Band. They came to Council to request $20,000 to help assist band members who needed financial help to attend this tour of a lifetime.
What I would say, hang on just a second please, we're looking at this motion, that was the last, so you have to do it on this, please.
Bringing this motion back to the council chamber has serious implications, as my colleague has literally just spelt out for us. So I do not support the use of the Mayor going, representing council and using council's money. I just feeling that the community has seen really negative consequences to this decision, and they've actually rippled nationwide. The perception of our town as struggle town is being shaped by a decision that does not reflect our values. This is not just about one action or one expense. This is about the message it sends, that those in power can act without accountability, while the rest of us are left wondering how we will fund projects that are
Councillor
truly
Potter,
matter.
can you please do it on the motion?
I've finished. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You could have kept going, but as long as you did it to the motion, please.
I've finished. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Do I have another councillor wish to speak to the motion, please? No? Okay. Since there actually was opposition, Councillor Pugsley, you can close.
I think that it's all been said, to be honest. We have attended the briefings. We've had the information direct from the Traralgon City Band. We've had the request. And I think that it was pretty simple. I'm really disappointed about how the Traralgon City Band have been made to feel through this whole saga. The mayor, we're back here tonight because the mayor is willing to pay for his travel, and do what the community wants him to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Thank you, councillors. Right, we've had speakers to the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Morgan, Councillor Lunn, Councillor Howe, Councillor Barnes, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Campbell and myself against. Councillor Potter. I declare the motion carried. Now, okay, so that was the last item on our agenda. Thank you all of those in attendance. Thank you, councillors. We did get there. Thank you. And I wish to say thank you to those attending and those who were watching online, and we will see you at the next council meeting. Thank you.